1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now that we have one joined loop and 4 picots that are open, we're going to go ahead and close this. So we're going to grab the tail again, wrap it back around the needle. We're going to pull the needle out while still holding onto this to make sure that it maintains integrity at the needle itself, since we're going to be pulling functionally 2 pieces of thread through what we've just created. So hold that, and then you can always put it down because it's connected. It's not going anywhere. And just make sure that this tail that's connected, that's going through here, doesn't get jumbled or knotted. If it gets too knotted, you just kind of have to cut your losses and start over. And there we go. And this loop is going to, or this ring is going to be bigger than the one we just made, since it has 5 of these spacing in it. The picket spacing. Okay, and then since that's still kind of loose, I go ahead and just make another knot. Same way I did the last one. Pull it through the part that's attached to the ball, and then loop it through the tail away from you so that you get a nice little knot. And I tend to, yeah, there we go. Sometimes I'll just flip it when I'm making the knot so that it goes in the direction of where the knot's going, and just tighten it. And then flip it back, because what we're going to do is this is going to be 1, 2, and we're going to make a third one right here, and then that's going to count as the first clover leaf that we've made. So we've just succeeded in ring 2 of the first clover leaf. We're going to start the 3rd ring of the clover leaf, of the very first clover leaf. So put the needle under the string that's attached to the ball, as functionally this being a ball. Okay, you're going to stick that under, and then you're going to start, get the cat hair out of that. If you have pets and you do this, it will be stuck in your projects. So try and keep your animals away from it, and cats are also known to eat the string. My cats won't leave me alone when I'm doing this. So we're going to start with the first loop. Actually, you can set it, you don't have to put it underneath it, you can set it right next to it. You're going to start with the first loop, so you have the forward loop. And then we're going to make the second half of that loop, which is the backwards loop. So we get our nice little knot. I'm going to do that 3 times. Slow down just a little. That's the first half, and the second half, and the front half of the first one, and the second half of the last one. And like I said, just trying to get it, these 2 stitches made is what takes everybody the longest. So now I'm going to grab my crochet hook again, if I hold it properly, and then we're going to join this loop that we're going to make, so it's a joining loop. We're going to join it to this loop here, which is the very last loop picot that we made on the 2nd ring. So we're going to pull that through, and then we're going to pull the thread from the ball towards us through the loop. And then we're going to pull it up and put it over the needle, and then just gently pull that back through till where it's nice and taut. And this is going to count as the first half of that stitch. So we're going to make the second half of the stitch, so the backwards half, and then that counts as 1. And then we're going to make the first half of the first stitch, and the second half of that stitch. Then we're going to do the first half of the second stitch, and the back half of that stitch. Move that down, I move it down as I go. Okay, we're going to make the first half of the 3rd stitch, then we're going to make the back half of that stitch. Okay, so now we have the 3 stitches there. So to recap, we have made 3 stitches. We've made the joining loop from the 3rd ring to the last loop of the 2nd ring, and then we've made 3 more stitches. Okay, so we're going to make a space holder, so we're going to make another one of these picot loops, and we're going to effectively make 2 of these loops, but we're going to do 3 stitches in between them, because all of these are pretty much going to be make 3 stitches, make a loop, make 3 stitches, make a loop. So this loop, or this stitch that we just made, is the end of that picot spacing. Okay, we're going to make the first half of the first stitch and the back half of the first stitch. Then we're going to make the first half of the second stitch and the back half of the second stitch. Then we're going to make the first half of the 3rd stitch and the back half of the third stitch. So we now have made one loop and one loop that's joined, then we made another loop, and we're going to make one more of these loops, which will eventually be joined into another ring. So we're going to make the stitch that ends the loop. We're going to make the stitch 1, the first half, and the back half. We're going to make stitch 2, the first half, and then the back half for the second stitch. Stitch 3, fingers, stitch 3, we're going to make the first half, and then the back half. So now what we've completed is one loop that's joined to the previous ring, and then 2 more picots that will be joined later on. So now we can go ahead and get the tail, wrap it around the needle so we can close this. So we'll just go ahead, grab it, and you're going to pull it all the way through. Be careful to watch your tension and the part that's attached to itself so that it doesn't knot. And then pull. Okay. Pull it nice and tight. Okay. So now we're going to make our knot by getting the needle, taking it through the part that's attached to the ball, pulling it through towards you, and then pulling it back away from you to get our loop here, and then just pull that taut, and just tie it, and you just make a knot there. Okay, so effectively, this is what works as a clover leaf, since you have the 3 rings to make one clover leaf. This is the center chain section. Ultimately, we're going to make a total of 6 of these clover leaves, and we're going to join them all together. And in order to do that, we've got to make a chain. So functionally, I would flip this, which is also called turning, so that it's facing, so the big part is facing downward, because you're going to get the needle and stick it at the thread that's attached to the ball. You're going to start with the first half of the loop. Mine just flipped backwards. If it flips backwards on you, like mine just did, you can just move the thread counterclockwise, and it will go back into place. Okay, so that's the front half of the stitch. I'm going to make the back half, and we're going to make 3 of these stitches. So like I said, almost all of this is make 3, make a loop, do 3 more. Okay, that's the second half of the second stitch, and we're going to make the forward half, and then the back half. So we're going to make 3 stitches. Then we're going to make the loop with the stitch at the end of the loop. That's 1. Okay, now we're going to make 3 more stitches. Okay, that's the forward half and the back half of the second one, actually the first one. Make the forward half and the back half of the second one. Then we're going to make the third one, the front half, and the back half. Okay. So now that we have 3 stitches, a loop, and 3 stitches, we're going to do that twice more, because we're going to get a total of 3 of these loops, because 2 of them are going to be joined into more chains later on. Okay, so we're going to make the first half of the looping, the stitch for the loop, and the back half. Then we're going to make 3 stitches, the front half, and the back half for 1, the front half, and the back half of 2. Now the front half of 3 and the back half of 3. So that gives us 2 loops. And if you accidentally get too much space in between these, what that will do is it will actually make another loop. All you have to do is just pull the string up and take it off. And then you can redo it at the right location where you need it to be. So that gives us 1, 2, and 3. Because this stitch counts as the finishing stitch of the loop. So I've got 2 loops. I'm going to make the third loop. So it's the front half of the loop stitch and the back half of the stitch for the loop. Okay, we're going to do 3 more stitches. And that's the front and the back of 1, and the front of 2, and the back of 2, and the front of 3, and the back of 3. Okay. So now we have the 3 stitches, so what we're going to do is we're going to close it, just not the same way that we did when we were making the loop, because we want this to maintain as one unit instead of making a circle. So what you'll do is you'll hold the top stitches, pull the needle straight, and then you can just make sure that your tail is not all knotted. Sometimes you can use your small fingers on your left hand or right hand, depending on how you hold it, that's holding the stitches up here, to just kind of help guide that just a little bit more so that it doesn't knot itself. And functionally, you're just pulling it all the way through and then pulling it tight, and which kind of makes a nice little curve because it wants to curl up with itself to make that, but we're not joining it, so it's just going to sit like that. So now to close the chain, you just get the needle, take it behind the string that's attached to the ball, pull it towards you, and then pull it away from you, going through the tail again, and then just making your knot again.